What you do not wish for yourself, do not do to others, has a familiar ring, and is one of the guiding principles that Confucius taught to his followers. Jesus said, "Do unto others as you would have them do unto you." The sayings of both Confucius and Jesus contain great wisdom. I have read and studied about Confucius for many years, and I have done a great deal of research on his life and his work. To understand Confucius, it is helpful to examine his early life, career, philosophy, and legacy. To begin, in 551 BC, a child named Kangji was born in the Chinese state of Lu. We know him in the Western world as Confucius. According to the article, Confucius, the Embodiment of Faith in Humanity, by Harvard Professor Tu Wei-ming, there is little known about the early life of Confucius. What is known about his early life is that it was full of turbulence and upheaval. Confucius grew up during the spring and autumn period, when China was engaged in war and immersed in moral decay. After his father died, when he was 3 years old, he was brought up in poverty. Confucius's family was part of a growing class of people who weren't born into nobility, but were considered above peasants. Most of the prestigious government jobs were filled by people who were from noble families. However, Confucius thought that people should be judged by their talents and skills. Confucius wanted to develop his skills, but could not afford a tutor, so he studied the classics on his own. During his early adult years, Confucius continued to study the classics, while he worked at menial jobs to support his wife and children. Tu Wei-ming states that at the age of 32, Confucius began his teaching career. He decided to work for a nobleman as a tutor to his sons. Confucius broadened his horizons when he traveled to the imperial court and the capital city with the nobleman. Confucius continued to study the classics and earned a reputation as the most well-read person in China. Gloria W. Lanham writes in her article, Discovering Confucius, that Confucius secured a government position when he was in his early 50s because of his knowledge. When Confucius started his government career, he was dismayed by the corrupt business practices. Confucius wanted to restore high standards to the government that met with opposition from his superiors. At this point, he decided to give up his government career and became a teacher, so he could share his philosophy with his students. In her article for the Washington Post, Words of Wisdom, Who Was Confucius? What did he say? Angela E. Columbus writes that Confucius's philosophy attracted many disciples who followed him during his lifetime. Confucius saw himself as a transmitter of knowledge rather than a revered sage. He was not interested in promoting new ideas or devising different philosophies. Instead, Confucius worked to revive old and seemingly outdated rituals and customs. As his philosophy grew in influence, government became inseparable from education. Government workers were now selected based on talent rather than bloodlines. Nobles needed to cultivate their minds to rule well, so Confucius went to the royal courts to teach his philosophy. According to the article Confucianism by Christian Jochen, Confucius transmitted teachings to his followers that influenced their family and business lives. While Confucius taught many virtues, he emphasized several. The first virtue is Yao, which is respect toward elders, especially parents. The second virtue is Yong, which is loyalty. The third virtue is Ren, which is humaneness. The fourth virtue is Yi, which is rightness. The fifth virtue is Li, which is ritual propriety. By cultivating these virtues, his followers hope to achieve balance, harmony, and to become ideal people. Confucius shared his knowledge with his followers during his lifetime, and his philosophy continued to grow and gain influence after his death. In the article The Way of Confucius, Fergus M. Brodwich states that Confucius's followers preserved and developed his legacy after his death in 479 BC. During the Han Dynasty, which lasted from 202 BC to 220 AD, Confucianism became the official state philosophy of China. The government liked Confucius's ideas because they produced good workers. His teachings became the foundation for government civil service exams. Confucius's students compiled the Analects, a collection of his sayings and stories soon after his death. The book captures the essence of his philosophy. It also reveals the nature of Confucius as a man, teacher, and reformer. Over a period of several centuries, Confucianism spread from China and influenced practices and beliefs in a wide area of East Asia. Confucianism has endured and continues to influence East Asian ceremonies and official procedures today. Finally, during his lifetime, Confucius demonstrated integrity, virtue, and through his teaching became one of China's greatest philosophers. Examining the early life, career, philosophy, and legacy of Confucius is important to understanding his contributions to the world. In the Analects, Confucius is quoted as saying, "What you do not wish for yourself, do not do to others," which is only one example of the timeless and universal wisdom he has shared with us.
Very good, very good.